Did railroads build their own cabooses? Sometimes they did. Let's check this one out. Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Today I'm reviewing an HO scale steel riveted caboose from Rapido Trains. My model is decorated in the Rio Grande Action Road scheme. Rapido offers this car in several other Rio Grande paint schemes. The MSRP for this model is $129.95, which is the price I paid direct from Rapido. I also paid a $12.48 tariff surcharge, which brings the total price to $142.43. I looked around and found these cars at other online retailers for $129.95 and up instead of discounted. We'll start the model at 100 possible points. The car comes in a cardboard box with a clear plastic sleeve around the outside. Inside the box is a magnetic wand, some literature, a set of etched metal numbers, and some stickers. The magnetic wand is used to operate the car's lights. The literature includes a page with exploded view drawings, another with prototype information, and instructions for the lights. The plastic bag with etched metal parts includes numbers and ACI labels. A plastic cradle protects the model. This is a good box that should protect the model for storage and transport. In the 1940s and 1950s, the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad built their own riveted steel cabooses. These cars were constructed in the railroad's Burnham shops in Denver, Colorado. That made the cars distinctive and unique to the Rio Grande. Many of these cars lasted into the 1990s after the Rio Grande-Southern Pacific merger. I compared the model to photos I found of the full-size DRGW 1420 and other cabooses with close numbers. I found a photo of 1420 from 1980 that shows the car before the side windows had been blanked out. A photo from 1995 shows it with the windows blanked out as on the model. Photos of other similar Rio Grande cabooses suggest that the windows were blanked out sometime in the early 1980s. It's worth mentioning that while the blanked out windows as on the model are correct for some Rio Grande cabooses of this type, including 1420, some had the windows removed completely with no visible outlines. Overall, the model appears mostly correct in terms of the shape and details. The main detail error I noticed is that some of these cabooses had axle-mounted generators. This detail is not present on the model. A photo I found of 1420 in the Action Road scheme shows the car with the axle generator before its windows were blanked out. An older photo of the same car in the black scheme shows it without the generator. Unfortunately, I don't have a good photo of 1420 on the generator side while it had blanked out windows. Since I can't say for sure if the generator was still on the car at that time, I'm going to give the model the benefit of the doubt. Looking at photos, there are also some discrepancies in the paint job. Photos of 1420 and most of the similar cabooses I found in this paint scheme with close numbers have the lube stencils side by side instead of stacked vertically as on the model. On the cupola end, the photos I have show that the upper stripes should be the same width as the lower ones and aligned directly above them instead of inset as on the model. The real cars had separate physical numbers on the car sides. Rapido provides these in the parts bag, which is great. Unfortunately for 1420, the printed numbers on both sides are in the wrong place. They should be more centered and not set back toward the cupola as on the model. It looks like there was some variation in number placement from caboose to caboose, so for some other cars the number placement might be correct. It would look bad to glue the physical numbers to the car sides in a different spot than the painted ones. You could leave them off, glue them in the wrong spot over the existing numbers, or try to remove the side numbers entirely so that you could glue the metal numbers in the correct spot. Depending on how hard the numbers would be to remove from the car side, that could be a lot of work and might require paint touch-up. After all the work Rapido obviously put into the physical model, it seems odd to have paint errors that could have been avoided with a little more research. I'm taking 5 points. The paint on the car is opaque and thin enough not to obscure rivets and other small details. The markings are crisp and free of voids. At the corners, the car has separately applied curved grab irons and see-through steps. On the ends, the car has nicely done railings and ladders. Both ends have brake wheels, uncoupling levers, and hoses. The end platforms have grating detail like the steps, but they're not see-through. It's a tiny detail, but the door handles are separate pieces. Under the roof overhang is a working red marker light and a dummy backup light. Up top, the roof walks are very thin and see-through. The windows on the ends of the cupola have nice gasket detail around the edges. The cupola has sunshades, many separately applied grab irons, and a nicely done antenna. The longer section of the roof has a smokestack with a wire support. Underneath, the car has full brake rigging. The wheels are metal with the standard RP25 tread profile mounted on plastic axles. All the wheels pick up current. The car has body-mounted metal Rapido couplers on both ends. Looking for a match on the horizontal center line, the coupler on the cupola end is high, so I'm taking 5 points. The coupler on the other end is also high. All the wheels are engaged according to the NMRA standards gauge. There is no significant body wobble. The car weighs 3.7 ounces, just a bit over the 3.5 ounce NMRA recommended weight for a car of this length. The car is very free-rolling. I'm testing the car on a DCC powered track with constant voltage. The interior lights come on by default. They can be switched on and off by waving the magnetic wand over the center of the car. The red marker lights, on the other hand, are off by default. They can be turned on by waving the wand over specific spots on the car roof. Each marker light is independently controllable. As I mentioned earlier, the backup lights are not operable. I didn't take any points for the non-functional spotlights on the Tangent HO scale BN caboose I reviewed previously, so I'm not going to take any points here, but I think it's disappointing. If you wanted to make the backup lights work, you'd need to add LEDs and some way to control them. Having two different control systems in the same car might be confusing, so if I ever do this to mine, I'll probably replace the factory electronics with a DCC decoder to run all the lights. The car has a capacitor circuit to keep the lights on for a few seconds if it loses power. This should help eliminate flickering. Unfortunately, the car has no memory circuit, so the interior lights will come on and the markers will be off whenever the car is placed on a powered track. On DC, the interior lights start to come on at about 20% throttle and are full bright by about 25%. The lights are a constant brightness as I advance the throttle higher than that. The lack of a memory circuit means that if you wanted to use the marker lights on DC, you'd need to turn them on every time the train starts moving. The car had no problems on Kato 550mm curves, which are equivalent to a 21 5/8 inch radius. Because it's my preference, I'm going to change the couplers over to KD 158s. I'll start by removing the draft gearbox screws. Looks like the whole box comes out when you do that. Let's see if I can pry the uncoupling lever out of the little hole in the lid. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, that makes it a little easier. The kitty whisker coupler drops right into the Rapido box, although it is a little bit sticky, so I want to try to fix that before I put it back on the car. It looks like there's paint on the inside of the draft gearbox lid, so I'm going to file it a little bit and see if taking that off will help the coupler swing side to side more freely. Well, that helped a little, but not enough, so I'm going to try filing the top of the coupler shank a little bit too. The 158s have the bottoms are flat, but the top has a little ridge on it, and there's a little bit of extra material there that you can file down if the coupler is sticky. Sometimes that helps. A little KD Greasem graphite lubricant won't hurt either. After putting the KDs on, the couplers are still a little high. Since the draft gearboxes on this car are removable, there's a couple different options to lower them. One would be to put a shim between the draft gearbox and the car body, and the other would be to shave the truck bolsters. The one on the cupola end isn't off by much, so I'll try that one first. And thankfully, this car has contacts instead of wires, so you can take the truck completely off. So unfortunately, even though there's some material here that I could file down to shave the truck bolster, these contact pins are going to, I think, prevent the truck from moving any closer to the car body. So I don't think trying to work on the trucks is really an option. I could try to file these, but I'm really afraid of messing up the electrical pickup, and that might cause more problems than it solves. Now the tops of the draft gearboxes have these little ridges, so this is going to make doing a shim a little interesting because these don't just sit flat against the car body like a regular draft gearbox would. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to shim this around these ridges or something. It's going to be a little interesting. So there are also some ridges on the car floor. So what I did is I cut a couple pieces of 10,000 styrene. That's the white stuff in here, and I tack glued it with some canopy glue. And I'm hoping that'll be enough of a shim to get the coupler down to the right height. Well, it took a little finagling, but I did finally manage to get both couplers down to the right height. So I know I've said this before in other videos, but I really wish manufacturers would stop trying to reinvent the wheel with draft gearboxes. I couldn't find a way to take this car apart very easily, so I didn't want to risk messing up the details, so I decided not to do that. As sometimes seems to happen with Rapido, I have mixed feelings about this car. On the one hand, you know, it's an accurate Rio Grande Caboose, which is really cool, and especially since I'm modeling the SP in the era when it was merged with Rio Grande, it was possible to see a Rio Grande Caboose in SP territory, and in fact I found a photograph of this Caboose 1420 in Roseville in 1995, so that was, you know, cool, and it, you know, fits right into my layout theme. On the other hand, the paint errors are really kind of a, I don't know, it bothers me because now it's a project. You know, if I want to make it accurate, I have to work on it. And, you know, I've really been trying to cut down on my projects, and I've been selling off a lot of models that I just don't want to put all the work into. And, you know, when I buy some new model, like, you know, one of the higher end models from Scale Trains or Rapido or, you know, Athearn Genesis or whatever, I want it to be finished, you know, so that all I really have to do to it is weathering and, of course, probably fix the coupler height, but, you know, that's me. But, you know, I don't want to have to be like stripping paint and touching up paint and putting new decals and doing all that kind of stuff. If I wanted to do that, I could get an undecorated model and paint it myself, you know, so a little disappointed in that aspect of this car, though I do think overall it's still a pretty good model. Let's see what we've got. Some of the markings on the car were incorrect, so I took 5 points in the prototype accuracy category. Both couplers were at the wrong height, so I took 10 points in the standards and operation category. That leaves us with 85 out of 100 possible points, which earns a B. Overall, this is a pretty good model. I'm giving it a green signal. Overall, I think Rapido did a pretty good job with this model. If you're looking for an HO scale Rio Grande Caboose, then I think you might like it. If you like this video, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel and I appreciate it. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.